I'm joined now by someone who thinks it's time the country industry changed its tune on guns. Author and writer Courtney E. Smith is live from Dallas for us. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. We've had yet another massacre taking place in the United States. Is there now an appetite for change amongst the country music community, a change in the law on guns?
It's a mixed bag at this point. For some people there is, and for some people there is not. This is the same debate that happens after every shooting. This time to me it's particularly interesting because country music is so intertwined with gun culture and the American Second Amendment. I'm hoping some new minds will change with this incident.
I just want to play, Courtney, our viewers a bit of country music just to give them an idea of the types of lyrics that we hear sometimes and how intertwined country and guns can be for some people. Take a listen to this.
You got the guy that's leading the blind, telling everyone to fall in line while they try to take away got guns and freedom. Don't let them take away your got guns and freedom.
Well, it's pretty clear there in those lyrics, but for those who missed it, it said, don't let them take away your God, guns and freedom. Courtney, I'm wondering, can one exist without the other? Can you have country music and a thriving country music industry and community without guns?
Well, absolutely. I think it's more without such unregulated use of guns that's the issue. In country music, something called the murder ballad has been a huge part of the genre, came over with Irish and Scottish folk songs, has been around since the 1500s, I think is the earliest date of them we know, and they're songs about killing people, essentially. And telling those stories is still going to be important in country music. Modern versions of them exist all the time. But this idea that your right to a gun should be utterly unregulated and you should have as many guns as you want, carry them with you, concealed on your person or open in public is a bit much, a bit too far.
Many people are now saying that the onus is on Congress and representatives to show some courage in trying to bring about some kind of change in the law or bring some sort of gun control in. I suppose for representatives on Capitol Hill, they'll be wondering, would they still have public support, largely in many cases from the country music community, if they sacrificed the private funding that many of them have received from the NRA, for example?
Well, in the wake of this event, I and a lot of other writers have done some breaking down by the numbers of the country music audience. And the Country Music Association, which is one of the biggest and most prestigious in America, estimates that about 1/3 of Americans listen to country music and consume it. The Boston Globe did a fantastic piece on this as well, and they broke down that something like 1/3 of that audience who listen to country actually own guns. So we're talking about a pretty small part of the audience. They really are the fringe rather than the majority. And not nearly that many people. It's something like 78% of Americans want stronger gun control. So I think we're doing a lot of kowtowing to a small part of the country audience right now, rather than what the majority actually wants.
But Courtney, I guess for an international audience as well, which is what we're talking to right now in this conversation, many people just simply won't understand the significance of the Second Amendment of the Constitution and this fear that presumably prevails in the US at the moment, that if you start to erode any part of that constitutional right, you open a Pandora's box for it just to be taken away altogether eventually.
Well, that's a very silly fear because that's a Pandora's box we've opened several times in the past. First of all, the Fourth Amendment has been eroded significantly since 9/11. We don't have nearly as much right to privacy as we did before that incident. But we've decided to give up a little bit of our privacy to protect ourselves from international terrorist incidents. These are domestic terrorist incidents. Statistically, they're much more likely to kill us than an international terrorist. It's time to start thinking about common sense ways that you can have a gun but regulate the gun industry and gun ownership.
And finally, how confident are you that something will change?
Well, I think it's going to be incremental. I'm kind of feeling more and more heartened every day. Just before this segment, a big announcement went out that the NRA is willing to dial back certain aspects of, add-ons to guns, and Congress are willing to discuss it. I think as far as country music artists go, at this point, a lot of people need to look at their associations to places like the NRA Are you supporting institutions like this, and why? Is it really necessary? And what is the message you're sending to your fans? Is it this rustic idea of culture that isn't truly what country music is anymore? Or can we stand together and agree most people don't want this?
Courtney Smith, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you for spending the time with us this evening.